So last night was an interesting fight. Conor McGregor losing to Dustin Porier via doctor stoppage after breaking his fibula in the last 10 seconds of the first round. And while it was an unfortunate accident, it wasn't something that we could say was out of the ordinary or was something that was just a freak. As Dustin said during his fight interview, he did hear a pop during one of the leg kicks that he checked against Conor, with Conor checking his knee. And the start of the fight started all right for Conor, but it wasn't a productive way to start a fight if you're looking to win a fight, especially in MMA, which can go 5 rounds. He started out extremely hot, straight away going for 2 spinning kicks, trying to get him out of there. And then from there, he was trying a lot of kicks, trying to go for the legs, which is something different to what we had seen from the first fight. But then from there, while he did start off with the first minute looking a bit good, from there, Dustin pretty much did look like the better fighter and pretty much did win the fight, possibly 10-8 in a lot of people's eyes. He was able to counter a lot of the things that Conor was trying to lead him into with the leg kicks and then some of the haymakers, although he did catch him once. And then once Dustin did tag him, he did do something which was very weird for someone like Conor McGregor's style of fighter, which was to go into the clinch. And then something which is extremely weird for Conor was that he tried to pull a guillotine. And from there was completely the wrong idea for when you're facing someone like Dustin Porier, who has great experience with guillotines, with it being one of his signature moves, and Dustin being a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He put himself in a completely wrong position with having Dustin on top of him. And from there, Dustin was able to rain down a lot of elbows and a lot of strikes and really hurt Conor a lot in that position. And when you have someone on top of you wearing down on you with those sort of strikes, it does affect your stamina greatly and does make you a lot more tired and a lot more prone to damage if the fight eventually does come back onto the feet. And with that, Dustin also did mention that Conor was grabbing his gloves at the inside of it, trying to, from there, get an up kick and possibly knock him out, which was something that was weird. And with that, we've seen it with Conor, when he does get on the ground, is something that isn't exactly his forte. And he has struggled facing fighters like Khabib or like Nate Diaz or even Dustin that we just seen today. When the fight does go to the ground and he does seem a bit uncomfortable. And with this loss, especially with the fact that it was by a broken leg, although in my eyes and a lot of people's eyes, if the fight were to have gone on further, if Conor hadn't broken his leg, I do feel that Conor would have lost, as the fact that you could see when Dustin was dominating him on the ground, and even the few seconds that we did see of stand-up in the later half of the first round, Dustin really had his number on that part and was able to put himself in a position where he wasn't pressured and he wasn't uncomfortable with the power that Conor did have. He wasn't scared of him. And now we look at what has happened to Conor in his last few fights. He hasn't even won an MMA fight since the Donald Cerrone fight on January 18th. But in a lot of people's eyes, Cerrone was pretty much overwhelmed, and he was at the latter end of his career where he wasn't ready for a top-level fighter. And when you consider the fact that his last probably top-level fight in a lot of people's eyes that he won was against Eddie Alvarez in November of 2016, it has seemed that Conor really has been on the sharp end of the stick when fighting the elite level, when fighting Dustin and also fighting Khabib. It seems that he isn't on that level where he can compete to the next level of lightweight fighters. And I think that with that, I do think that his run as a elite fighter at the lightweight division or as a fighter in general is pretty much over, in my opinion. And that legend of Mystic Matt kind of is coming to a close. And you could see that also in the post-fight interview when Conor was saying a lot of ridiculous things, demanding that the fight be ended by doctor stoppage. and demanding that Dustin Poirier's wife was in his DMs and calling her all sorts of atrocious language, which was Bush League behavior. And being honest is something that we've seen him do before. Use pretty aggressive language against people's families and against their natures and their personalities. When you look at what he said about Khabib, what he said about Jose Aldo, what he said about Dennis Siver and Poirier in the past, is something that isn't surprising to say the least. And there's a way to see a fight of McGregor's level or reputation become that person that everyone expected him to be, especially when you look at fight week when he was extremely aggressive and extremely rude to Dustin all throughout the fight week. And when you look at what's next for him, I'd say that when you look at the elite fighters in the lightweight division, fighting the likes of Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler, even someone like Islam Makhachev, is something that would be extremely difficult for him to get a win against. And most likely in his future, we probably will see him fight against someone like Nate Diaz, which would be a fight which would be a bit more easier for him, as Nate isn't on the level of those fighters. But as for Conor contending anymore, I think that's time for a close.